Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of We Used to Be Journos, the podcast where two media insiders break down broken news. My name is Jan Fren, and I am joined by my co-host Antoinette Latouf. And hello to you.
Hi, Jan. I've missed you because...
Have you?
Well, because for the first time, we haven't communicated as much as I would like. You probably enjoyed it. We both went away this weekend.
We did.
Over the weekend. I went to Queenscliff, and that's Victoria's Queenscliff, not the other Queenscliff in northern New South Wales, because it was the Queenscliff Literary Festival, and they had their first international guest. And I got to be in conversation with him, and it was Omar Al-Akkad. He is an Egyptian-Canadian author and journalist who's written the most searing, haunting, beautiful book, One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. And we've got
about the genocide in Gaza.
About the genocide in Gaza. And we're super lucky because I have the audio of that chat and the permission from Queenscliff Literary Festival to share that. So we will be dropping that chat as a bonus for our listeners later this week.
Okay, well, I went away with 5 families and 7 children, which does not sound relaxing, but it was very relaxing because we went to a massive lake house up the coast here in New South Wales, and the kids kind of entertained each other.
Yeah.
They hung out, they played with each other, there was a massive lawn, they were running around.
Beautiful.
We tied them out, took them to the beach, and it was really lovely. And I want to say that I didn't look at my phone once, but I did. But maybe just 5 times, which for me is
Huge.
a real low.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know, that's almost nothing. So I'm very proud of myself. I've come back a little bit more relaxed and ready to get stressed out. So let's do it.
Excellent.
Before we get to our show, we have a very quick update on a story that we broke about the literary journal Meanjin. This was a few weeks ago. So MUP, Melbourne University Press or Publishing?
I think it's press.
One of them, had decided that it was going to discontinue the journal. It said it was doing it for financial reasons. But we broke a story that there had been a number of offers made to MUP to revive the journal.
And that the deputy editor the outgoing deputy editor believes that it's probably because of their unashamed coverage of Gaza. That was an allegation we put to MUP. They didn't refute it. They didn't answer, actually.
Yes, yeah. I mean, what we do have evidence of is the fact that there have been some people who have made offers to offer Meanjin a lifeline. And yesterday, 2 of them got in touch with us saying that they had received an email from the chair of MUP,
yes,
I believe it is.
Warren Bebbington, pretty much a cut and paste of the same email. And the email was saying, thank you for your offer. Your organisation was one of a number which sought involvement in Meanjin's future, that the MUP board considered these approaches. They had a meeting in October and decided not to pursue them further. And so I was like, okay, not a great sign, but perhaps Meanjin's going to be saved internally. So I put some questions to MUP. Do you have any plans to continue Meanjin or to revive it? Will you be sustaining it internally? Because maybe, just maybe, they've rejected these financial lifelines because they found a way internally to do it, and they did not respond to my questions.
The saga continues.
It does indeed.
Just tell us what's happening.
Right? We deserve to know.
Yeah, I'm curious. But look, maybe we'll keep an eye out if you're interested in Meanjin. Maybe we will hear soon enough, and we'll update you on that if we do. Meanwhile, let's talk about today's show. It's slightly different. We're not going to have a big end chat, I suppose. But we do have 2 no's, 1 what the fuck, and 2 yeses that we're going to get into. My no is the Ita Buttrose Redemption Tour, Redemption Tour. The Ita Buttrose Redemption Tour, which has really kicked off in full steam. I'm sure you can't wait to hear about that.
It's been making me queasy. My no is about the so-called Melbourne machete epidemic, which seems to only be an epidemic if you ignore the facts entirely and you rely on a little bit of commercial media hysteria.
Oh, the media whipping up stats about crime.
Oh my gosh.
I don't believe it. The one what the fuck that we have is about the state of free-to-air television and why we don't know who's watching. And I don't mean that as shade. We literally can't figure it out. So we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. And the 2 yeses, yours is.
Yeah, but I give a yes to someone who probably doesn't actually want a yes. It's a yes to the junior Labor staffer who accidentally sent all of Labor's talking points on Gaza to the wrong person, which got it published in full on Deep Cut News, our mates at Deep Cut News.
I love when people send shit to the wrong
best.
person. It's so good no matter when and where it happens.
Yeah.
My yes, believe it or not, also does go to the Labor Party. And God forgive me for saying that sentence. This is my old Catholic reverting to anyway. And this was for a decision regarding the Copyright Act, which fuck, that sounds like the worst.
I just fell asleep. I was like, ah.
Yes, later we're going to talk about the Labor Party and decision and copyright. Fucking hell.
Hang for that. It's going to be riveting.
No, do not tune out. It's about AI stealing all of your shit.
All of your content.
All of your content, not paying you, not acknowledging. And there's been, I suppose, a little bit of a, I don't know what to call it, a stopgap that prevents that from happening thanks to a decision made by the Labor Party. Was that sexier? Anyway,
not
that's
really,
what
but
I'm
it will be sexier in the latter half of the show, we promise.
Okie dokie. Let's start with our nose. I'm going to go first if that's okay with you.
Because you were having a good holiday. Until this moment.
I was having a good holiday.
Okay.
I was. And I was in a little town and I was in the post office of this little town. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll get the newspaper, will I?
Yeah.
We'll do the quiz, the Good Weekend quiz. And I got to the Good Weekend and I had a look and I thought, wow.
You were having a good weekend.
I was having a good weekend. Well, now I'm no longer having a good weekend because what is this?
Yeah, no apologies. Well, one thing I can confirm is that is true because she does not apologise.
No.
Fact-checked, confirmed. Ita Buttrose does not apologise.
And if you were expecting one, expect one no more. Not that you were. Anyway. My no is around the kind of redemption tour that Ita Buttrose is having at the moment because she's releasing a book called Unapologetic Ita. And it sort of started here on the cover of The Good Weekend, which, had you saw that, no apologies. On the inside it says The Survivor. After a 6-decade trailblazing media career, Ita Buttrose remains as sharp and opinionated as ever. And so the tenor is already really set from the cover that this is going to be a bit of a puff piece. And that's mainly because it is flogging her latest book.
Yeah, over like 6,000 words.
Oh, it was long. It was long. And I'll just give you a quick breakdown of the story. It starts with where she's at now, her health, her sharp mind, where she's come from, her father, her parents' divorce, all the times that she was appointed to, the editor of this and the editor of that and the editor of this, her divorce, her setting up her own publication, all of the good fights that she's fought. There was a bit of talking there about the fight that she's fought against HIV/AIDS. And then we get to her appointed by Scott Morrison as the chair of the ABC and how she stood up to a number of outside forces as chair. Okay? We're already about 4,500 words into this 6,000 word piece before we get into anything that makes this particular cover story relevant.
Big exhale. Okay.
Which is what happened with you. Like, this piece could have been written at any point in time. It could have been written 5 years ago, essentially. I mean, before she became chair, but all of the rest of the information could have been written 5 years ago. And the piece calls what happened to you, your unlawful sacking at the ABC, calls it one of the most potentially damaging controversies of her career.
Are there others of that caliber?
I mean, I suppose if you're going to have a 6-decade career, there are going to be some controversies.
Okay.
But this has been one of the most potentially damaging controversies. Yet, it's not until you get 80% of the way through the piece that only a few paragraphs are dedicated to the most damaging controversies. And Ita saying things that are essentially not hugely supported by the evidence in the trial. I'm going to give you one example. There's one bit where the author writes, "Did she want Lattouf sacked? I didn't think it was necessary," she tells me. Which is weird because that feels like it goes against a lot of the emails that I've read, including one where David Anderson writes that you leaving the ABC is going to be part of a managed exit. And Ita Buttrose responds, "Managed exit? Really? We should be in damage control, not managed exits, David." And it also, the judge in your trial found that she wanted you gone as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, did she forget about the COVID? And has Antoinette been replaced yet? We owe her nothing.
I mean, those were in the piece, but I don't know whether the journalist asked her specifically to respond to those, but if he did, her response was not included in the piece, specifically responding to can she get
But her alternative
COVID.
reality was.
But the way that she saw it was. And there's so much talk about like her strong leadership, but in the piece, essentially she blames David Anderson and Chris Oliver Taylor. She says, David told me to forward all the complaints to Chris Oliver Taylor, and Chris was relatively new at the ABC, so perhaps he didn't know the ABC's guidelines. So it wasn't me. It was David Anderson. It was Chris Oliver Taylor. Are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay, to be honest. I mean, I didn't expect an apology, but I didn't expect this kind of warped reality PR tour that's just like completely devoid of facts and a very ironclad federal court ruling. Like, he says, Ida's actions, Justice Rangi says, that her pressure contributed to Mr. Oliver's view that he needed to act quickly, that the ABC as a whole capitulated to pro-Israel lobbyists, that they let the Australian public down. Like, even if Ita wants to do some kind of like 1980s style, you know, or 1990s Shaggy, it wasn't me, the journalist has all of the evidence and a responsibility to their audience to not think they're fucking stupid. And to be like, oh no, I didn't do it. And to publish that with any kind of, without enormous amounts of skepticism and pushback.
And there really wasn't.
Or don't include it at all. So it could be like, she says she didn't do it or whatever. And it's just like, well, she may have said that. You know, the analysis should then, particularly in a 6,000 word piece, there's ample time to be like, well, that may be her view of events. However, Justice Rangi said this, blah, blah, blah said this. The Australian public has done this. It was off. It feels really off, all of it. And look, Lord have mercy, but I will give a shout out to The Australian because their book review.
I did this one for the Labor Party.
Sign of the cross over the shoulder. I don't know what else I can do. But it started with, Carolyn Overington's book review started with, plenty of people will go straight to the index of Ita Buttrose's new book to look up Lattouf Antoinette. They'll be disappointed. Her name doesn't appear. Right at the beginning, it sets that what people will expect. And I low-key love that the first thing people will be doing is going to the index of her book and looking up my name, that my name is associated with Ita Buttrose and her shameful behaviour towards me. Like, I'm like, well, I kind of love that.
Yeah. And like that just gives me perfect cause not to read the book because it's like, oh, but that's what I was going there for.
Yeah.
Like I want the shade and the tea on what happened at the ABC. Like reading this in the year of our Lord 2025, that's the point. And if it's not in there, well, I'm good, I think. She was also on A Current Affair and, again, there was a 40-minute interview that was on YouTube, part of the ACCA podcast, and I think a 15-minute piece that appeared on the show. And it was all started with the, nostalgia of Ita and all these old clips and Ita talking about sex and her life. And it's not until we get to, again, 3/4 through, that we get this bit about you.
Dismissed by the ABC after sharing this Human Rights Watch post about Israel using starvation as a weapon.
Antoinette Lattouf's unlawful termination, did you ever question how that was handled?
Well, now when I left, we were going to settle. So what happened between then and when the case eventually came to trial, God only knows.
God only knows.
They were never going to settle. There was never a point in any of the negotiations over the protracted almost 2-year legal battle did we ever get the indication that the ABC was going to do the right thing and settle. So, and that's also trying to kind of distance herself. Well, we were going to do the right thing when I was there, and then I left, and I don't know what happened. I call bullshit.
And it's a very similar tone to what she said in The Good Weekend, like, well, David told me to pass the emails on and Chris is new.
Yeah.
This is just another version of like, well, when I was there, we were going to settle. And what happened between then and I don't know. There's also, I'm not going to play it because I feel like we've already kind of like played this a bit too much, but there was a video on the Good Weekend Instagram as well, because it didn't just end with the Good Weekend article. There was a podcast and a little Instagram video. And she was talking about the 3 most important changes that have happened during her time, which is the better education of women and the employment of women outside the house. And then the third one, which she really had to think about, had to do with seeing women hold down really good jobs.
Except this one. Has Antoinette been replaced yet? We owe her nothing.
I just was like, that is so wild. Like,
Look, it's
with
wild
no
that
hint
she
of
said
irony.
It's wild that she said it, but it's even more wild that was clipped up and put on Instagram.
Well-
and the comments went off. Like, people were like, what in the alternate reality is this?
Well,
And then
no.
they turned the comments off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because when I got to it, the comments had already been turned off.
Well, yeah.
But I shared it onto my stories. And girl, I don't think I've ever seen a story be seen or commented on this
Yeah.
much by people.
Yeah.
And when I say I touched my phone 5 times during the holiday, it was because of that.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel like I'm living in like an alternate reality, as you said. Like, who's in the right reality? Because this just reads as just wild to me. I'm like, is somebody having a laugh
Yeah.
at the Good Weekend? I can't quite understand it. And I'm trying to like make sense of all of this. And I genuinely feel like there is something that I am missing about Ita Buttrose. And I've been reflecting on it. I think it is a real thing, which is I'm missing the inherited deference that comes.
Or the nostalgia to her as a trailblazer in media.
I don't
in
have
the
any of
early-
it.
Yeah, we don't. But many other Australians do, because so many have written to me and said, "Oh, I always saw her as an icon. This has changed my view so much."
Right.
You know, even my mother used to really like her. She liked seeing her on TV in the I think the 80s or the 90s. So I think older generations certainly spent a lot of time getting to know her, and certainly had many that have contacted me had a different image of what she was. And what she represented. We probably don't have that because of our age, and because it kind of speaks of, like, you know, middle-class white women, gatekeepers of the media, which is kind of, you know, gross and has never been good to people like us.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person in my family, dead or alive, who has ever read the Australian Women's Weekly.
Yeah.
Like, I've never picked up a copy of Cleo magazine. It was not for me.
Right.
It was all just like skinny white people sleeping over at their friend's house. Like, bitch, what?
Yeah.
That does not happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Talking about sex, like, Arabs don't talk about sex. What are you
Yeah,
talking about? You know? So she never felt like she was for me. And I only came here in 1989. I don't know what happened before then. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have, like I said, the inherited deference, like the inherited cultural code. And she's so, like, tied up with Australiana. I just want to give you a little piece in the story, in the Good Weekend piece, where they say it's not too much of a stretch to say the story of Ita Buttrose is the story of Australia in the second half of the 20th century. And I just read that
Whose
and I was
Australia is that, bro?
like, #can't relate.
Yeah, I think like most of the like a big chunk of the population can't relate.
You reckon?
Yeah.
But so, yeah, that's why when I see these like extremely deferential pieces written in the Good Weekend, and then the Aka interview, and then, you know, all over the Instagram page, and it's like, I don't get it. I don't, and I'm glad I don't get it, because I think it's clouding some people's judgment, to be completely honest. That's my no. What's your no? Moving on.
Yes, let's move on. Let's talk about machetes. Because
Unrelated.
unrelated. Glad you made that clarification and distinction. We are not. Yeah, we're going to talk about knife attacks in Melbourne, because I stumbled across a 7 News story, and this was the opener. So let's just dive straight in.
Melbourne's machete epidemic has spread to a sporting event as masked men gate-crash Rugby League's Harmony Cup in Broadmeadows. Frightened children were among the spectators caught in the mayhem.
That's the exclusive swipe that commercial TV often has. Melbourne's machete epidemic. I was like, oh, damn. This was an exclusive story. And an epidemic suggests that it's widespread and that it's spreading. So I'm expecting evidence of some of this. So now listen to the reporter's first line as the package opens.
Terrorising families with a very Victorian weapon. Two hooded thugs, one waving a machete, run through a crowd at Seabrook Reserve in Broadmeadows around 9 last night.
Okay, that's intense.
I have no doubt that it would have been terrifying. And so you hear a terrified scream.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a knife. And I guess what makes this story like such a big deal for 7 News is they got the CCTV or the camera footage exclusively. And for someone who's worked in commercial TV, there is nothing they love more than some knife-wielding CCTV footage. It'll be the top of the bulletin in most cases. And so I'm not denying that it would have been terrifying.
Yep.
So then there's a bunch of vox pops because this happened at a rugby league kind of harmony event.
Which is when they do they
yes,
talk to people on the street. Like,
Punters.
what do you
And
think?
Punters was like, it was scary. We don't know what they wanted.
Yeah.
But then the reporter alludes to, so no one was injured. No one was hurt. Somebody had a knife. They ran around, then they ran out. The reporter even alludes to the fact in the story, it may just be some guys being reckless. And his piece to camera doesn't give any evidence other than, and they may have left the car park here, stands in the car park and talks about how they may have gotten away.
Okay.
But to start a piece talking about an epidemic, I expected something then a bit of exclusive camera footage of somebody with a machete. And, maybe some evidence that this is an epidemic, maybe some data, maybe this is the 65th attack to happen in 12 hours.
Well, this is what I was going to ask, because usually they do start with the most dramatic stuff at the top and you can understand why. And then they'll have like a graphic that's 3/4 through the story.
Absolutely.
That's like over the past 2 years.
Or a piece to camera.
Yeah, or
going,
something. Yeah.
And this is just the first of 58 attacks since January.
Yeah, so-
I've done these stories a billion times when I did crime in commercial TV. And this follows months of reporting in this vein. And it follows the high-profile tragic deaths in Melbourne, including machete deaths, including 12-year-old Chol Acheg and his 15-year-old friend Dao Akuing in September. Horrible that two very young men were killed in a machete attack. And also staying with 7 News, they published just a couple of weeks ago, and most people will remember, the random stabbing of a woman. Remember there was CCTV, a woman's just walking down the street and another woman just kind of like randomly stabs her. Horrible. Very random, very rare. Which begs the question, unless you've got a bit of CCTV footage, is this a crime crisis?
Right.
Because audiences are being told time and time again that there is a crisis. It's a crisis. There's a machete epidemic, particularly for Victoria.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, well, 7 News may opt for the hyperbole, but the narrative is also being spread by other places like the ABC. So here's a headline from the ABC, although in this case it's attributed, even though it's factually incorrect, to the opposition. So the headline is stabbing attack in Melbourne CBD. That's the woman random stabbing attack. Who, she survived, but she got stabbed.
Yeah.
Stabbing attack in Melbourne CBD. More evidence. Victoria is the nation's crime capital, the opposition says.
Yeah. Those two words, opposition says, really doing some strong heavy lifting in that headline, right?
Enormous.
Yeah.
Right. And at least they've attributed it to something or someone. But I reckon it's pretty and I read the article, there is nothing to suggest that Victoria is the crime capital. But by then, it has landed with audiences.
Yeah. And there have been those, very high profile CCTV instances. And there was also Victoria's Crime Statistics Agency released new data that showed that crime was at the highest level on record. That was recent, I think in June that happened.
Yes. Yeah. So yes and no in terms of those data, because details matter. Let me talk you through it. In the 12 months before June 30 this year, Victoria Police recorded, an 18.3% rise in criminal incidents. But there's also been a 12% increase in the population.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you look at Melbourne more particularly, just bear with me.
Okay, yep.
That's the local government area with the highest rate of crime. That's a 17.4% increase since last year. However, when you measure crime on a per capita basis, because you have to take into account the increased population, Melbourne's crime rate is actually lower today than it was in 2017 when it's done on a per capita basis.
Is it?
Yes. So in particular in Melbourne, homicides are at a 10-year low with just 2.6 per 100,000. And if we are going to look at what that increase was across the state,
Right.
59% were property related and 39% were theft. But machete epidemic, everybody.
Right.
Knife crime.
I see. Okay.
Homicides in particular at a 10-year low. And per capita crime in Melbourne is actually lower than it was in 2017.
I
mean, so what are you all talking about?
Yeah.
You got some CCTV. We have these tragic deaths of these young men, not even young men, boys. Sure, terrible. But the hysteria and the crime capital and the Victoria's weapon of choice, that's just outrage. Like, that's moral hysteria.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened in Queensland as well with the Queensland election, where both major parties went really tough on youth crime. And I think one of them had the tagline, adult crime, adult time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a piece that I read actually in the ABC that I thought was quite a good piece, you know, after the election had happened and after all of this hysteria had been whipped up, that just categorically debunked the fact that youth crime was on the rise in Queensland.
Well, Sky News, interestingly, and probably for their own political purposes or agenda, at the same time that some outlets were talking about Victoria being the crime capital, Sky News and news.com were talking about Queensland being the crime capital. So I was like, which is it, bro? Which one is it? Depending on which outlet it is, and depending on who has an election, and depending on the kind of the political climate, depending on what laws want to be passed. Because usually what happens is this kind of hysteria, then there's a push, and then there's kind of knee-jerk reaction by police to be like, we are tough on crime. Then they bring in things like a machete ban or something else. And everybody's so scared because we've been scared by so many outlets that then there's support for it. And it doesn't actually get to the root of what often is needed to come down on crime, which is really boring stuff, which is social policies, which is long-term stuff, which is like fixing disadvantage, which is trying to break the rate of recidivism, which is early intervention, like really boring, unsexy stuff. As a whole, crime has been on
the decrease,
on the decrease across the country. You would never believe it if you listen to politicians or opposition leaders or the headlines. And then it actually sticks. Like, I speak to my sister who lives in Melbourne, or I speak to my in-laws, God bless their souls, who watch back-to-back commercial TV. They watch all of the news bulletins and whatever they miss. And then if you speak, they're terrified. They're terrified because everything's so bad and young people are stabbing and killing everybody. They absolutely believe it.
I feel like this is one of this is top 3 media trope, baby. Like, it just happens cyclically every few months, every few years. There's a crime wave somewhere and the kind of hysteria wheel turns. And I remember, we both remember growing up in the western suburbs in the late 90s and early 2000s in Sydney, where there was so much hysteria around the crime rates involving Lebanese gangs. And which there was crime involving Lebanese gangs. I'm not denying that, because that is a fact.
And the more you police it, because they had the Middle East crime gang, which is like the most overtly kind of like racial profiling in New South Wales, a Middle East crime squad, which has now been disbanded. Surprise, surprise, the more you look for something, the more you'll find it. And then some would say with like Victoria Police, came out and they were like, because of this kind of hysteria and after the horrible deaths of these 2 young men, they started to go and proactively look for and seize more knives. So then they come out and say, we've seized more knives. And it's just like, well, you know what happens when you look under the pillow? You find more chip crumbs, right? Because you looked.
Sure.
That's not to say that it's not a good thing to get knives. But then that goes, oh, okay, well then they've seized more knives. Next minute, Premier Jacinta Allen, machete ban.
I wish I had a way to stop this from happening. Well, the crime, but also the reporting on the crime. Because, I feel like we're just, again, it's one of those things that's like, sure, we can tell you about this now. It's going to happen again in a few months somewhere else. It's going to happen again in a few years somewhere else with a different community in a different location. Like, how do we get off that hamster wheel? Because it sells.
Yeah. Well, here's a
it's
statistic.
Sexy and it's not sexy. It's frightening. It's frightening. It triggers that kind of like foundational emotion.
Yeah. Look, here's a statistic I want to leave people with.
Yeah.
Big crimes like murder and drug offences are way down, particularly in Victoria. But that's not like a headline that anyone seems eager to shout. It's like, serious crime is down. Have you seen that anyway?
I haven't.
Right? So, like, that's for you, Edarati.
Fix the headlines yourselves, damn it.
Yeah, it's just like, no, but just also for their sense, because I'm sure many people are also going, oh, they're just like knives everywhere at shopping centres and I'm going to get stabbed. It's really, really very, very, very unlikely.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Good point to leave it on. What's next? What the fuck? You know what? This is kind of a new segment that I'm going to call. I can't decide if this is a yes or a no because I can't for the life of me figure out what's actually happening here.
Yes, yeah, this is a good one. This is like what the fuck.
This has to do with free-to-air television. And this conversation was sparked by a particular headline that I saw about the Channel 7 Upfronts, okay? Because it is Upfront season. I think 7 and 9 and ABC, 7 and 9 and SBS have had their Upfronts.
And if you are listening thinking, what the fuck are you talking about?
What are
Upfronts?
Upfront?
Let me help you out. So it's essentially an annual sales and PR ritual in free-to-air TV. So networks invite advertisers.
Yeah, every network does it, even like Foxtel and the streaming services and, radio
But we're going to
stations.
speak particularly about like
Free to air.
air.
Yeah, sure.
So the networks invite advertisers, press and producers to go, this is what we're having next year. And the goal really in free to air and for the commercials is to get advertisers to commit early to commercial slots. So it usually takes place across October and November. And, they do a big pitch night where they're like, here are our stars. Here's the one person that's going to host 84 shows. And TV is still alive, everybody. Give us your money.
Yeah.
That's the too long to read version.
It's a lot of hobnobbing. I've been to some ABC and SBS upfronts as talent and, you get a zhuzh and you eat some hors d'oeuvres and you hobnob and you look at all of the, shows that are on the slate.
Yeah, SBS had their upfronts last month. 9 and 7 had theirs this month.
ABC and 10 are coming up.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Anyway, so back to the headline that I saw about the it's Channel 7 upfronts, which was it was in the SMH and the banner was Australian TV and the headline was a Mick Malloy comedy and new Renault and quiz shows. 7 unveils 2026 programs.
And who's that in the photo next to Mick Malloy?
I think it's Glenn Robbins.
Yeah, it's Glenn Robbins.
Yeah, I mean, love them.
Yeah,
like no shade.
Yeah,
but I looked at that and I was like, that could have just been written in any year.
This could be a headline from 1987.
Well, I mean, maybe not that far, but it certainly could have been one from 2000.
Yeah.
2010, 2020. And I had this feeling of and again, this is absolutely not shade on anyone here. But who is watching this? Look, who genuinely, who is watching?
I think
how many properties are there left to renovate in this country?
I am going to have to push back on that because The Block is continues to be the most watched television show. So it is a huge hit and continues to be a huge hit for Channel 9, which is why you get 483 offshoots aspiring to tap into that kind of renovators' dream competition format because it is something that is working.
Okay, so this speaks to my point. This speaks to the answer to the question of who is watching? Because clearly people are watching. I'm not saying that they're not, but I'm trying to work out.
Okay. I tried to do, you asked me that question. You were like, because you were you had 2 questions for me. You're like, how many properties are there left to renovate? And who is watching?
Who is watching?
I was like, okay.
Can't answer the first one.
I can't answer the first one. However, I could endeavour to answer the second one. Because what I noted in the rhetoric from both 7 and 9, they were like, hey guys, forget the rhetoric that TV is dying free to air. We have the data that suggests it's not. People are loving TV. And I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? So I was like, they have to be referring to something. So because as it turns out,
the context here is that we've been hearing for approximately 15 years that free to air, that eyeballs are going elsewhere from free to air, and yet you still kind of get this rhetoric that actually no, we have a big proportion of eyeballs on free to air,
and that's kind of a new shift, and there's a reason why that's kind of a recent shift, and they're kind of drawing that very they're being quite adamant. No, guys, everything is okay.
Okay,
and
so
this is
what
why.
did you discover?
Okay, so OzTam, which point out is owned by the commercial networks. It's the historically kind of reverted to and relied upon metric for TV ratings. And earlier this year, OzTam released a new metric or a new report called Streamscape, which it describes as a new quarterly report that for the first time delivers a unified, independent view of total video consumption in Australia. So this is meant to be a one-stop shop of what people are watching on TV, what they're streaming, what they're watching on catch-up, etc. And its findings, which were quoted and referred to by 7 and 9, it essentially reiterated to advertisers, spend big with us, everything is great, because linear free TV is still the dominant use of the big screen. It suggests that 61% of Australian households consume free-to-air television. Then 30% is Netflix, Apple, and the rest, and then 8% is catch-up. 10 Play, ABC iView.
Okay, the thing with the OzTam stuff, it has the wildest data collection method for television ratings. So it's like a literal meter that gets installed on people's televisions.
Yep.
So there's like a sample of the population that's picked.
No, it's like anywhere between 5,500 to 8,300. It was meant to be a representative sample. So it's literally that. That's it. That's where these figures come from.
And
that's
someone
the sample.
installs a meter connected to a television that then is able to calculate when that television is turned on, for how long for, etc. And they've got some information about the family or the people who,
Yes.
own these TVs. So it's just like this very wow, it seems like a outdated data collection method, I guess.
Yep, sure. Outdated it may be, but it has been the relied upon method.
But also now with dual screening, how do you know that people are actually watching the TV and not just
well, that's the thing. It doesn't account for
Sure.
watching on your iPad, doesn't account for watching on your laptop, it doesn't account for watching on your phone. So it's an imperfect collection.
Yep.
So things get a bit muddy or quite different because Samsung came out a couple of months ago with its own metrics, which are very different. And it suggests streaming is by far the most content that people consume, and that linear TV is only about 30%. So you got Streamscape, you got OzTam saying 61%, you got Samsung saying 30%. This is not like a 5 to 10% difference.
Right,
It's like half.
And how's Samsung collecting the information?
Okay,
They've
so
got
Samsung, and this is the thing, Samsung collects it from anybody who has a Samsung TV. And there's 3.6 million Samsung TVs connected in Australia. And it is automatic content recognition on Samsung streams. It captures pretty much what appears on the screen every half a second. So it sounds like a large slice, but it's narrow because it's 3.9 there's 25 million Australians. We don't know how many households there are, but it's only if you have, I have a Samsung TV. Do you have a Samsung? Actually, I have two Samsung TVs.
No, I don't.
Okay, so you're completely not captured.
Okay.
Wildly different findings, right?
Yes.
I'm not done yet because then ACMA has a survey.
So just to recap while we're here, we've got the free to air collection method saying most people watch free to air,
owned by
the
free to air networks.
the free to air networks. And then we've got Samsung that doesn't mind a bit of streaming saying actually most people are watching streaming. And then for some reason we've got this third contender coming out of the woodwork.
Well,
now.
yes, this is ACMA, which is the communication body, the communication authority body, right?
Yep.
And theirs is via a survey. They do an annual survey. This is self-reported habits. Where they ask a collection of people, what are you watching? How often? Where do you go most? So this is self-reporting.
Okay.
Their stats suggest 46% of adults watch linear TV weekly. So you've got
61%?
you've got 30%, and you've got 46%. Right? So maybe ACMA split the difference, you get ACMA.
Yes.
But only 19% of 18 to 24-year-olds say that they watch any linear TV.
Yeah.
And so the broadcast skewed heavily to 65 plus, which is unsurprising. But this
Sure.
again is self-reported.
But back to my original question, who is watching free to air? No idea. We've done all of this.
I think we can fairly say
unclear.
it skews older,
Sure.
and that there are interests, there are self-interest and commercial interests, because again, these upfronts are to convince advertisers, advertise with us, our medium is best. So Samsung has an interest, the free-to-air TVs have an interest.
Sure.
I would say ACMA as self-reported, would be, I'd probably,
The
my gut
data
is to go-
gathering of all of them has
Yes.
some alarm bells going off. None
Yeah.
of them are perfect either, but yes. Yeah. Okay.
And obviously it matters because who controls the narrative can control the billions in spend.
Sure.
And just before we move on, and which also kind of adds to the broader confusion about who the hell is watching this, I came across an article I remember reading in the Australian Financial Review. And it caught my attention because the headline was, in a world where my truth increasingly threatens our shared reality, we need institutions that still believe in the truth. So I was like, whoa, okay. But very quickly, I realized it was a PR piece disguised as opinion, because the subheading is, or the blurb is, this is precisely why we need an urgent conversation about commercial TV's future. 20 million Australians still watch free television every week, according to their own data. That's not a dying medium. That's democratic infrastructure. So that if you want the truth and if you want good democracy, go to commercial television, according to this piece.
All right.
Now, it was written by Bridget Fair, who is CEO of Free TV.
Right.
Free TV Australia.
That's the lobby group for
It's the
free
lobby
to air
group
TV.
for free to air TV.
Yeah.
And it's not declared at the bottom of the article.
Sure, okay.
And it's not declared that not only is she the lobby group for free to air TV, that she represents free to air TV like Channel 9, and Channel 9 owns AFR, and AFR is publishing this opinion piece, which is saying, we need the truth. We need democracy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, girl. Like,
20 million Australians still watch free television every week. Okay. I don't trust anyone's figures. I'm sorry.
And I don't trust that commercial TV is the bearer of truth and the savior of our democracy.
No,
Just
it
putting
is
it out there.
it is some kind of shared reality. I will put it. I think this person is. I'm sorry. I've not read the piece, but I imagine that they're looking at like this increased fragmentation where everybody's in their own algorithm, and when you have these hubs that are a shared reality, and whether they're free, whether they're like
have you seen
government owned or commercial, they are a shared reality. They're one place where everybody goes.
A shared reality. Did you see Channel 7's lineup? Whose reality is that?
Yeah, sorry, we were just talking about
Dr. Chris-
a machete attack that actually was not reality at all.
Yeah, but also their
interesting.
lineup of, like they just have a kind of a rotating roster of middle class white presenters.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, whose reality is that? So it's just like a shared reality. I'm like, it's particularly Channel 7. And, because I've done some research previously who gets to tell Australian stories, and Channel 7 is the most unrepresentative of our diverse population. So I'm like, shared reality, girl. Like,
Okay.
Anywho,
let's just hope someone invents a way of like data collection that is absolutely foolproof, that we can then have a shared reality about what the actual statistics are. Fingers crossed, eh?
sure.
Fingers crossed.
Hello, Antoinette here. Very quickly, if you've made it this far, thank you. It means you like what we're doing. If you want to get more of our stuff in your feed, very quickly, just hit the subscribe button. That's it. Okay, back to the show.
All right, so that was our what the fuck's going on here story. Our yeses. We have 2 yeses today, 2 very strong yeses. And like I said at the top of the show, I can't get this sentence out without
credit
like
where it's
having...
due though. Like
What's
when
that?
there's a good policy
Yeah,
decision
sure.
from Labor, it deserves attention, and some critique, because it's not just a round of applause.
Yes, all right, my yes does go to the Labor Party. God forgive me for saying that. It's a media story, though. I promise it's not a political story. Labor said this week that there was going to be no copyright exemption to tech companies wanting to train AI systems on Australian art and or creation.
Okay.
Right? So just give us a bit of a background as to what that means. I'll let you do the context.
So AI tech companies essentially wanted an exemption. It's called TDM, text and data mining. And that would have, in effect, have allowed AI companies to train their models on Australian artists' work without any compensation. So they take your work, they digest it, they mimic it, whatever, they spit it back out.
To their benefit, and you get no money.
The artists, the writers get no money.
Nothing.
They train their machines on poetry and music and books and whatever.
You name it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Productivity Commission, this was a few months back, they basically floated this idea that tech companies should be exempt from copyright laws. Like if they essentially nick your work, that shouldn't be considered a breach of copyright law in certain circumstances. The tech industry was like, they rather liked that idea and kind of likened it to fair use, because like there are copyright exemptions for the news, for example. That's why you see images on the news. If somebody's reporting on something, like it's somebody else's footage, maybe they're paid, maybe they're not, maybe they're used from other networks, whatever it is. There's like
generally in news
fair
and current
dealing,
affairs.
it's called.
Yeah, in general news and current affairs, I think you get up to like 30 seconds. Like if you're going to do an obituary of someone who's died or whatever, you could use a bit of their music, a small amount, and you're not going to pay the artist like royalties or fees because you're using it in fair use as public interest. It's in news and current affairs. That doesn't happen in docos or movies because presumably that's a different kind of benefit. You've got to pay royalties or ask for permission or whatever. But they wanted essentially what news and current affairs get because they're like, we need exemptions and we need ways to make more money and to take more content.
Yeah. And one of the arguments that Scott Farquhar made, who is the, founder of Atlassian and the CEO of the Tech Council, we'll come to him in a second. But like one of the arguments that he was making was like, well, satire is exempt from the copyright law. And you're like, Yes, like one person making a joke on an ABC
Yeah.
satire program, very different
Yeah, it's
to
like Mark Humphreys against Google and
Yes,
Atlassian.
like-
It's like same.
different. You know what I mean? Anyway, so the Attorney General, Michelle Rowland, is obviously out spruiking this, that they've made this decision that no, the exemption's not going to happen. If tech companies break copyright law, they're going to be liable. Here's what she said in an interview.
That certainty has been welcomed by Australian creators, and I look forward to both the tech sector and business and our Australian creators moving forward with certainty on how AI can be best utilised for the benefit of all Australians in future.
Dum, dum, dum. You will notice there that the word certainty
Overreach, doing some heavy lifting.
Yeah, and also was used twice.
Yeah,
There
it's
is
like bench
certainty
pressing
now
150. Yeah.
about AI.
Mm.
I don't know how much certainty there is about AI, because I think one of the core points of tension is not going to go away anytime soon. Right. And the core point of tension, I think, was best personified when Scott Farquhar, who I mentioned earlier, the Atlassian guy, was doing an interview, because he's one of the big spruikers of like there should be an exemption to this copyright law, right? He was doing an interview on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, and she asked him a question, and this was his response.
Right now, AI companies are just gobbling up all of that material for free. That's what the artists are calling theft. Do you think that should stop?
I think that the benefits of the large language models and so forth that we've got outweigh, like, those issues.
Boom. There it is. The benefits outweigh the costs. The benefits to society, read millionaires that are definitely going to make more money from investing in AI. The benefits outweigh the losses that Australian creatives might have to put up with for there to be, this kind of transformative power of AI. And that tension, we're only at the beginning of that tension.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think if Australia was the only one kind of pushing back, that, it would make, because one of the counter arguments also was that if Australia goes ahead with this, then tech companies would just go and kind of shop in different jurisdictions, and we would fall behind, and Australian audiences would miss out on better AI. But
he always points to the United States, that we should be more like the United States.
Yes, but artists would arguably, and artist organisations would probably point to Europe, because Europe already has a transparency rule in the EU AI Act. Of course, Google and the like don't like it. But this act includes an exemption to that TDM, the text rule. So unless right holders explicitly opt out of having their content used, so let me explain that better. The rule prompted both Sony Music and Warner Music Group to send out letters to AI developers last year declaring they are opting out, so that content creators and hubs can say, we opt out. And so if you opt out, then they have to abide by that. A similar fight in the UK, there was a proposal that would have let AI companies freely scrape content of text and data, but the UK plan collapsed because there were pushback from little boutique artists like Elton John and Paul McCartney.
Oh, yes. Never heard of them.
So in the EU, artists and bodies are allowed to go, we opt out, and quickly big ones did.
Right.
And many would follow. And in the UK, there was artist pushback. So at the moment, Europe and Australia are on par.
Okay. I know that you're saying this as like a positive, but
I'm trying to be, but this is your yes for me
I know
section.
it is,
What's going on?
but this reads to me like, oh, the world will really have to work together to solve a global problem that
With
is escalating at a rate that we can't possibly understand and may have devastating consequences for the earth, being pushed by billionaire lobby groups.
Okay, yes.
Do you
I
think
understand
that we can do that?
I
Do
understand
we
your
have
skepticism.
precedent for us not really being able to do that on another
Sure.
thing?
Sure.
I don't know.
But like the CEO of the Australian Writers Guild has come out saying, we applaud this announcement. This sends a message that our cultural and creative industries can be part of ethical AI developments, that we can negotiate terms, not be dictated to. Also, the CEO of music rights management org APRA has said this is a significant moment for Australian creators and our
You're
cultural
right.
sovereignty.
I'm definitely not taking anything away from creators
them
and
the
artists.
moment. I know they're arm wrestling billionaires.
God bless you. I don't just want you to have this moment. I want you to have the bigger moments that are down the future as well. That's where I'm thinking. So absolutely, I will give you this moment. And so much more, because like you deserve that as an artist and a creator. I'm just, you know.
You've got a healthy amount of skepticism based on the disproportionate power of billionaires and the way they fuck everything up. I get it. There's precedent.
You know me so well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my yes. I believe that was a yes. Is that a yes? I don't know what that was, but that's something.
That is something.
Okay, what's your yes? Fix it.
Okay, so if you haven't come across this story, it is the best. The federal government's talking points on Israel and Palestine were mistakenly shared with the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network. So it essentially disclosed its opposition to a proposed children's hospital in Gaza, which was being championed by prominent Dr. Mohammed Mustafa. Yes, it was covered by Deep News.
Deep Cut News.
Sorry, Deep Cut News. And yes, give them a follow. They do great work. They're our mates. They should probably expect that I can pronounce the name of their organisation correctly, but there you go, Deep Cut News. They did a good explainer, but my central yes is to the Labor staffer who sent out the content by accident, because it was an excellent error. And I just want to talk, did you read through all of the talking points?
I read through some of them. Yeah. It was quite long. They published the whole thing.
It was very long.
Yeah.
And it was just about how to avoid any accountability and do fuck all in relation to Gaza. That's the summarized version. And this is how it starts off with. Australians are understandably distressed by the ongoing violence, including the deaths of so many innocent civilians. As the Prime Minister has said, the situation in Gaza has gone beyond the world's worst fears. So a few questions: who, what, where, like no specificity, like which we have come to see, always these very vague statements about what is happening.
Yeah. As the Prime Minister has said, I think you'll find that the Prime Minister has said, the situation in Gaza has gone beyond the world's worst fears.
But also, what situation?
Well done.
What's the situation?
Yeah.
Like,
has it gone beyond the world's worst fears? Why? Why has it gone beyond the world's worst? How?
Also, bro, what are you doing about it? Because
oh my God, get to the F-35 part, please.
Oh, I've just for 1 second. I'm going to get to it in a minute. I know the F-35 part's your favorite. In the ceasefire, it's kind of like, like we always want a ceasefire. We've always been saying ceasefire, guys, just cease-firing. But with our partners, we remain unequivocal in our condemnation of Hamas for its atrocities on 7th of October. Ooh, you can get specific there. And its ongoing acts of terror. Because that's what's happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
It's ongoing acts of terror.
Yeah.
Not the genocide by your ally, who are, segue, you are helping with your F-35 parts. And they did a really, they tried really hard to be like,
oh man,
the verbal and linguistic gymnastics to be like, no, we aren't sending parts that are contributing to this, what is it? The world's worst fears, that are raining down on the world's worst fears.
Yeah, the situation in Gaza has gone beyond the world's worst fears. Oh, okay. What about, why are you sending F-35 parts to be manufactured for the Israeli army to use against Palestinians in Gaza? Well, here's the answer. The F-35 relies on a global supply chain. Oh, okay. Go on. One that is centrally coordinated by Lockheed Martin and the US government. Oh, I see. It's just centrally coordinated by a weapons company, is it?
And the US government, which is the biggest arms dealer to Israel. Continue.
Australia contributes to this global supply chain because F-35s are a sovereign capability.
They got me at sovereign capability.
Yep, a sovereign capability for the Australian Defence Force. We do not have a direct bilateral agreement with the Israeli government in relation to the F-35.
Yeah,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Here is the layman's terms. I gave it to you, Jan, and then you gave it to the psycho to drop. It's like I gave, but I didn't give it to them. I just gave it to you.
Yeah.
To give it to them.
Guys, listen.
It's because of our sovereign capabilities, okay, everybody?
Sovereign, as you know, Lockheed Martin already did the shipping and logistics for this. You know what I mean? They've got a cell in a spreadsheet that says Australia, tick. Cool. Yeah. We're part of just a what? Are we just a cog in the Lockheed Martin global supply chain spreadsheet, or are we a sovereign nation with sovereign capabilities?
Yeah.
I don't what the fuck are you talking about? You sell weapons parts for Israel to kill Palestinians. Shut the fuck up about a ceasefire.
Yeah. And like the ongoing acts of terror, which you are contributing to, but you're attributing it to another group.
Come on, man.
Obviously, quick note to Declassified, another independent news outlet, because it was their investigation which got to the bottom of these F-35 parts, despite this kind of moral and linguistic gymnastics that the government continues to do. And just very, very quickly, the conclusion reiterates. So I started up at the opening with kind of a very vague concerns, but specificity about who's doing the acts of terror. Australia reiterates our call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and the release of remaining hostages. We remain unequivocal in our condemnation of Hamas and its ongoing acts of terror. So this is the only line that I could see that was repeated twice in this very lengthy. So that's the point that they want to be specific about and then repeat.
Have they ever condemned Israel?
They did mention something about Israel's actions. They did about the firing on people children who were going to collect food.
Oh.
So they talked about give access to food. So that was the only, that was the most overt.
Are they
criticism
firing
Israel.
on those children from F-35 jets?
Yeah, quite possibly.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works,
But yeah, it was quite the read.
It was quite the read.
Quite the read.
Thank you to whoever
may or may not still have their job.
Yeah.
You have done the world a service with this kind of gaslighting memo.
Yeah. Well, you've done us a service here with something to chat about and have a little bit of a laugh about. Because if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of our show.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on another week of We Used to Be Journos. As always, we didn't do a plug for support, although I don't know, maybe we're going to put a
we'll put one in.
When we edit this, we might stick one in there. But if you haven't heard one yet, and you do want to support us making this show, head on over to ettemedia.com, ETTE media.com, and hit that subscribe button. And if I may be so bold as to say that you subscribing with your dollars really goes a very long way to helping us make this show. It is what makes it possible.
Absolutely what makes it possible.
Yes.
Our t-shirts are also, oh my God, selling hot and fast. You can get some. It is just a limited run. We have posted out so many, and we're getting our pictures.
Almost kind of sold, which
almost
is
sold.
unreal. Thank you so much to whoever is
crazy.
buying these shirts. Can't wait. Take a photo of yourself and send it to us.
No, they have been sending.
Oh, good.
I've been seeing a whole bunch and trying to share as many as I can when I have permission. Love seeing you in our Ette members only shirt, and it's a no from me. You guys are legends. Jan and I will be back next week, but before then, there will be a bonus episode of my sit-down chat with the incredible Omar Al-Akkad. That will be coming up later this week.
Catch you soon. Bye-bye.